My name's Pete Woods, you're watching Hexhamtv. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Matthew Greening, and like my friends here, I live in Hexham.
I'm Carolyn Blasker.
I'm Jill Turner.
And I'm Sue Roberts.
Tell me, what's happened recently that you've all been involved in?
Well, we're here, and I met these great people because we all ended up in London on the big one, so-called, which was the most extraordinary public demonstration of, I think, many people's concerns for the climate and for biodiversity and what was happening in the world. And for the first time for me, it was an opportunity to, if you like, sitting off my hands and actually do something and to demonstrate my concern and my fear for the future, which was an extraordinary event. Somewhere between 60 and 100,000 people making an amazing presence, demonstration, colour, noise, very peaceful, very joyful, a very moving event. Kids, families, all sorts of people. And for a while it felt like the political hub of London was occupied by people with a common voice and a common concern, which was a very moving event, and hopefully something we can take forward in different ways, nationally and particularly locally in Hexham.
Why do you think it was important to go down to the big one?
So for me, the theme of the big one was Unite to Survive, and the whole approach was this is about all of us. People approach the climate and environmental emergency from different perspectives, perhaps a love of nature, concern about bird life, concern about insects. Some people approach it from a more political angle and global climate justice issues. But this was really about all of us here in the UK coming together around this. So for the first time, I had family members come with me to the big one who'd never, ever been on a protest or a march in their lives. And I think what was wonderful for me was the atmosphere. So particularly the Saturday, there was a big biodiversity march. And it was very safe, inclusive, joyful. And actually one of my family members said that being around the people in London actually restored her faith in humanity, which was an amazing thing to be part of. Yeah. The other piece that I was particularly involved in was something called the Planetary Health Hub, which was a bringing together of lots of actually 20 different health-related organisations, making that link between the climate crisis and the health crisis that inevitably means. And there was a 4-day programme of different speeches, lectures, group work around these issues, including a very excellent 2-hour session on children and young people's mental health related to the climate crisis. So it was a really diverse range of approaches and as I say, very well organised and people coming together. And one of the reasons I wanted to speak with you is it was incredible how little main media coverage there was, given that there was between 60 and 100,000 people peacefully gathering in London with a very clear voice, and there was virtually no coverage, which concerned me a lot about the way the media does and doesn't cover events.
And why did you think it was important to attend?
For me, it was really important to show that we are in this together. There was an alliance of loads of different groups, loads of people that came together for the same cause. And I think it's how we need to bring that from that event from London back into our local areas. We need to be together, strengthen our community, work with this together, because we are facing a crisis. We're facing some sort of collapse of how society is. Our nature is collapsing, so we need to gather our energy together and face this as a unity, really. So it's about connection versus division. We need to come together in this.
And how do you think that we're able to do that on a local level?
Well, one of the really good things, and the things I enjoyed in London, was that there were nearly 20 people from Hexham who had all come down, mostly under their own steam. But because we had met before and we had begun to talk to each other, we were able to meet there and enjoy each other's company and compare notes and bring back the enthusiasm, which is part of what we're doing today, is the motivation and enthusiasm we know there is in that group of people. And there's already an opportunity in Hexham for people to come together and express their worries and how they're concerned, but also meet with people who actively want to do something. And the hub of that we see at the moment is the Hexham Climate Cafe, which is meeting with fantastic support from the library service in the library on the fourth Saturday morning of every month. The next one coming up is May the 27th, and people who would be interested to hear more about this begin to think what they could do to take part in this this challenge that the climate crisis is. They could all meet together there. There's free hot drinks and cold drinks. The library service has put together a collection of books around the climate for all types of readers, and it's becoming an important place in Hexham for people to meet and for this to grow out of.
Why is it such a crisis at the moment?
Oh, big question. And the big answer would take us a long time. It's a crisis because we're now beyond the time when we can spend or have the luxury to spend time planning and thinking about these things and considering what we need to do. We are beyond that because the change is happening so fast and happening so widely. And by the change, I mean the environment, the climate, the inequality of the impact of some of this sort of stuff. If there were people that were concerned about a big protest in London being to do with disorder, then just wait for the disorder that might happen if the climate collapses as it is now, because the shortages and the challenges and the costs and the disruption to people will be at a level of disorder that 60, 80, 100,000 people happily demonstrating in London will look like peanuts. And I think for me, being in London, joining with friends here, being part of something locally is just a way of saying we need to act. We can't wait. The politicians don't seem to have any willingness to do what needs to be done, so people have to demonstrate that that's not good enough. And I think if people can come together in Hexham, it doesn't have to be in a protest format. It can be doing stuff locally, it can be volunteering locally, it can be activating people's desire to be seen, to show their concern and demonstrate that what's happening now is nowhere near good enough to save us from the worst outcomes of the climate crisis. It sounds a bit doom-laden, but for me, actually, going to London was because I did feel a bit doom-laden. And the benefit, partly for me, was meeting other people and feeling that this was a shared concern and therefore a shared response, hopefully, in Hexham as well.
Can I add to that? That I think one of the reasons why I'm so active about this at the moment is that we know that the change is not happening. So most people have heard of the Paris Agreement, where we thought there was a real global agreement. This is vital. We must stay below 1.5 degrees global warming. Since Paris, things have got worse and worse. Yeah. So the carbon dioxide issue is just going off the... Sorry, I do this because off the map. It's rising and rising. So nothing is yet happening to a scale that will stop this impacting us now, but impacting our children, our grandchildren in a catastrophic way. So that's why I was in London, is that we can't wait for the next general election. We can't hope that somebody will eventually do something. It has to happen now, and the current system is not delivering. And people should be alarmed, in my opinion. So that's one of the reasons why it's so important. And I think we are lucky here in Hexham that we have a town council that is more independent than some. And there are some excellent people on the town council who really understand the gravity of the situation we're in. And I think as Hexham and surrounds, we can really do something, both to change things locally, but also to contribute our voice, as we did in London, that we as people need to go and show how concerned we are and take that to where the power lies, to say things have to change.
What would you say to young people, because this is going to affect them the most probably, about being active on climate change in terms of getting involved?
Yeah, I've got 3 teenage children, and what I really believe, and that kind of links onto what Jill is saying, we cannot wait for politicians and elections to sort it out. It's us who need to organise between us, we need to mobilise, and social change needs to come from us. So I would say don't give up hope, organise, inform yourself as much as you can what you can do, get together and find strength in your groups to demand the change that we need and be the social change that we need. So it's not, as you were saying, it's not politics that's going to solve it. It's us, and we need to form these grassroots groups to bring it about.
And what about individual actions? I mean, sometimes it's such a big subject that people feel overwhelmed and they sort of feel like giving up because it's just so huge. What about individual actions that people might be able to take on a very personal basis?
Well, everything is going to be important, right from the individual right up to the political. We know that Hexham in particular, there are many people who are taking individual action from very simple things like there are a huge group of cyclists, there are people who are no longer using plastic, there are people who are changing their diet, there are people who are supporting all the wonderful horticultural things that are going on in Hexham. There's a huge amount that people can do, and people find that by doing stuff, it helps them, first of all, to feel better and less anxious about it, which is really important. It actually contributes, but they then find that they want to do more and start challenging those in power and with influence to actually do more. So it's a gradation for every individual, from doing individual personal things right up to challenging our leaders. And everybody can take a part, and not everybody has to do everything. It's all important.
Can I add to that? That I think there is a bit of a culture of shaming and blaming where people say, but for example, I still drive a petrol car because I need it at the moment because that's what I need for work, and I cannot afford an electric car. Not sure, is it any way better? It's that thing where you kind of are maybe getting caught up in this blaming yourself for not being enough. So I can't stand up and demand. You can, because we are all living in the system, and there are certain things that we cannot at the moment do other, and we shouldn't be blaming ourselves or let others shame us. We can still demand change, even if we're not perfect.
So there's plenty going on in Hexham, and you want to do more, and you want more people to join and get involved. Thank you all very much for talking to Hexhamtv.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.